Well, I know I've always had trouble with my mother, and I know I've always had trouble with, girls, and I know I've always had trouble just socially, generally, and I know I've had a lot of trouble with my food. And I've had a lot of trouble with my neighbor, and but I've got my wash hose. And I can do elephant. I can do elephant. I can do elephant.
Hello VC, Uncle Roddus back again. Take 2 on my video because I forgot to reset my camera, or somehow my camera was on the wrong setting, and I made a video and I made a half a video. So we're going to start again. My records are now piled in a pile on the floor because I had been showing them already. Right, let's start again. Okay, new arrivals for May. May is halfway through. It is coming up into winter now, and we are in New Zealand Music Month. This is our annual music celebration of New Zealand music. Whatever, I just play all my New Zealand records. I try and go to gigs if they can, and there's been a few gigs happening. Unfortunately, money's still a bit tight on that side for gigs, but there's a few records coming in. So I picked up this one at the start of very end of last month. Wolf Wizard Cursed. This is their first LP. They are one of our sludgy, grungy, stoner rock type psych bands, whatever you call it. So that kind of heavy riffing and that sort of crap. It's really good. I like it. The singing's not particularly fantastic, but there's some good riffs on here. But like Arc of Ascent, who I've shown a few records of, so yeah, really pleased to have that. I haven't actually seen anyone else in the New Zealand Facebook page show that record, to be honest. Arrived just early this week. Delaney Davidson, I've shown a whole bunch of his records in the past. Shining Day is, God, this must be something like his 12th, 13th album. I don't have all of his stuff yet, but there are probably 2 or 3 albums that I'm missing, but I do have most of it. I like him, he's really good. Singer-songwriter, but he does a lot of different stuff. And all his albums kind of quite different from each other in some ways, but he still has his sound, but he does like mixing things up a bit. But this is his strongest album for a while, I think. I've taken to this really, really a lot. I think since his Self-Capitation album in 2011, I think this is probably the strongest thing he's done. Yesterday I had to go to the dentist. It was a rather urgent thing, and I was lucky enough, I managed to break a big chunk off one of my teeth the night before, and I managed to get an appointment to get that sorted temporarily until I can do some more expensive work, which is actually going to hit my wallet pretty hard, unfortunately. So whilst in town, I went to the record shop. Funny that. I don't know how that keeps happening. I really don't. What's playing in the background is this. I picked up a band called Low Profile. The album is called Alley Funkin', and it's from 1987. I think this is pretty much their lone LP. They had an EP and a 12-inch single and maybe another single or something. The song you just heard was the song that I was familiar with then, and I'd forgotten all about it, and I actually got a slightly different version from what you've just heard on a compilation that I picked up, and that was a song I hadn't heard for many years. And when I heard it, I was like, God, I remember that. It's such a cool song. It's like a slightly different version from that one. Yeah, so this is their album, and I picked it up for a really good price, considering that some people are trying to sell it on Discogs for like $70. This one here was I really pleased to find this. This was on my that was on my Discogs list, the Alley Funking, and so was this on my Discogs want list. So that's some records I can now take off my want list. Jay Clarkson is not a young lady anymore. This is 1987. She's a pretty infamous or famous Christchurch based, or not based anymore. Again, she lives in Dunedin now, I think, but originally in Christchurch. She was in a band called The Playthings, who are one of my most favourite New Zealand post-punk bands. They were absolutely awesome. They only put out 2 singles. One of them I used to own, now sell for close to $100 each, I think, if you can find them. They did 2 singles and a live album, none of which are really easy to get your hands on. And then Jay went on to some other bands like The Expendables, and the music on this is in line with The Expendables, and they put some fantastic songs out. I mean, she has written some absolute New Zealand classics like Flower from The Expendables, The Man With No Desire, which I think was the B-side of that single. I mean, both are stunning. And on this one, the Boy With No Desire, no, The Boy With the Sad Hands, I mean, that is just an absolutely stunning song. Very ethereal, dreamy pop sort of thing, but not really commercial, to be honest, but fantastic. EP's in pretty good nick too. And fortunately that one didn't break the bank either. Another one I got from yesterday, which was on my Discogs list, want list again, but was one that I never really knew a lot about. I'd kind of, when researching New Zealand records in the past, and there are some collectors that I look through their collection on Discogs that I know or know of. There are other ways that I do find out about records. I can't even remember what some of them are. But so this one had come onto my radar, but I knew nothing about it, and so I was quite surprised to see it. And it was only $20 as well, so it wasn't expensive. It is reasonably rare. The Web Women's Collective, that's them on the back there. There's about 10 of them, if you can see that. This is pretty much a self-released album. They all wrote, or most of them wrote the songs and performed their own songs, so they don't all play together at once, but some of them, there might be 2 or 3 playing. It's very good folk music. I mean, I really didn't know what to expect, and wasn't sure if it'd be that good, especially because it's only selling for, being rare, it's only selling for around $20 in the shop. I thought, well, maybe it's not that good. I mean, probably not many people know what it is. But I'm really impressed. Yeah, it is. It's folk. There's some beautiful guitar work, lovely folk guitar. They're all females. There's some lovely females singing, and it's a really good, well-recorded album. And yeah, did I play side 2? I can't remember. I might not have got through to side 2 last night. But yeah, I'm really, really impressed. So that was a good score, and it's definitely a keeper. And then finally, one that I really didn't know anything about, but it looks kind of interesting. It had been in the boxes, in the New Zealand bins for quite some time, actually, to be honest. And obviously nobody really knows what it is or what it was. I mean, I'm pretty sure this was still there on the big sale day and that, so I probably could have got it for $10 instead of 20. But Only Naked, John Jeanette and the Vespars. Basically, as far as I can tell, is the only thing that they release. It is on Discogs. It's an EP, five song EP, 45 RPM. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's not horrible. It's not bad. It's not great, but there is some interesting stuff going on. I mean, maybe a few more listens that might actually, might be interesting, even better. So we'll see how that one pans out. So that was a blind buy. And yeah, I don't mind forking out a few dollars for interesting, rare New Zealand music, even if it's not that great. I will keep it. Finally, a grail has arrived for me. It has eluded me for some years due to the fact that it was never reissued on CD. It's never been reissued in any format whatsoever, which is really unfortunate. My all-time favourite New Zealand band. Now, I had all their vinyl output back at the day. I'm pretty sure I did anyway. I definitely had the 2 albums, and there's an EP that they released earlier on. I have the first album on CD with that EP included, so I was pleased to get that. I've had that for many years, but the second album was never ever reissued, and I could never find. Well, I wasn't looking for it on vinyl, and now that I am looking for it on vinyl, I couldn't even find one except for on Discogs, and they were like $350 or $250, and that's just not the sort of money I'm going to pay. It is a grail. I don't have many grails. It is a grail, and now I own it. Turned out that someone showed this on Vinyl Lovers New Zealand music page on YouTube, Facebook, and the conversation got on about it. It's not their most popular album. Most people that are into the Gordons like their first one better. I love this album. I grew this album when I was in my late teens. It was thrashed at my place. I like it as much as the first one. I love the first one too. I love it. It is a bit wilder, and it's a little bit more lo-fi. This is slightly more polished and professional sounding. This band went on to form Belter Space, or some of the guys formed Melch Belter Space, which became Belter Space. I've showed some of their records and CDs recently, and eventually all 3 of them ended up in Belter Space again. Their sound was considerably different to this, but yeah, this is proto grunge as far as I'm concerned. Not the Black Sabbath end of that scale, but the more alternative end of that scale. The only thing that I could compare it to when it came out in 1984 would be maybe Killing Joke, but this is a little bit wilder and maybe even slightly more aggressive in some ways. Although in saying that, this is slightly less aggressive than their first album. Their first album was definitely more experimental, more wilder, post-punk, heavy. Apparently these guys were super loud when they were playing. I mean, they were just a little bit before my time that I could have gone to the pubs to see them, unfortunately. I mean, I was 18 when this came out, and they'd actually already split up and then reformed for this album, and then possibly split up again. I don't know how long they stayed together, because Melch Belter Space, which was the first EP they put out after the Gordons founded, was only in 1987. No, was it? So I don't know. Anyway, so I never got to see them live. I'm pretty sure I bought that album on release or close to release time, but maybe it might have been a year later. I don't know. I would have heard it on a student radio station. So I am absolutely rapt to have that. So I do now have both of their albums on vinyl again after all these years, and they are my all-time favourite New Zealand band. That is one of my all-time favourite New Zealand records, along with their first one and a couple of the Skeptics albums. Just fantastic. And I got it for a reasonably... I still paid a lot more for it than I will probably ever pay for a record again, I hope, unless I win a lottery. I mean, there are a lot of New Zealand records that I will never own unless they get reissued or I find them on CD. I mean, if I want them just for the music, then, I'll just buy the CD if I can find them. But there are a lot of really, really good albums, usually a lot earlier than that, but even around this time and Flying Nun stuff that you just can't find for under $100, or and some of them up $500, $600, $700, $800. Actually, I heard a song recently by a New Zealand band I never heard of. Looked up their record on Discogs. They had a record that was one album released in the 1980s. The song was really, really good song. I'll probably never hear the album. One copy on Discogs selling for $700. So Yeah, ain't gonna happen. Right, well that's my video again, and this time hopefully the whole thing is recorded because I don't want to do it again. Okay, see you next time.